running behind schedule in classic fashion, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk says he'll present the first big Starship program update in 2.5 years on Thursday, February 10th. Additionally, as an apparent centerpiece for the event and update, Musk says that SpaceX will perform the second ever full stack fit test with a Starship upper stage and super heavy booster. Want to know more about the update? Then stay tuned to the video. Welcome to the world of Tesla. Don't forget to land your finger on the subscribe button and press the tiny bell icon so you will never miss an update about Tesla, SpaceX, or Elon Musk. Having said that, let's begin. SpaceX, the space transportation company of the well-known multimillionaire Elon Musk, has been a big deal in recent years. It developed the Falcon rockets with the goal of using them as reusable launchers. It also developed the Dragon spacecraft, which can be put into orbit around the Earth or around the Moon with Falcon 9 rockets to supply space stations or to bring and fetch crew there or here. But what exactly is SpaceX's Starship? Starship is a two-stage manned and unmanned very heavy launch system under development by SpaceX. Starship's booster stage, which is required to leave Earth, is called Super Heavy. The name Starship refers to both second stage with a compartment for crew, cargo, or satellites, and the first and second stage as a whole. The project went by many other names until it received its current name in late 2018. Starship constitutes a fully reusable spacecraft designed to carry 100 to 150 tons of cargo, or up to 100 people per flight into space. In expendable mode, that could even be 250 tons. Flights to Mars and back are among the possibilities. With the ability to refuel in space, those quantities could also land on the Moon or even land on Mars. With a design for a modified Starship, SpaceX won the tender for the manned lunar lander of NASA's Artemis program. The first concept design was presented by SpaceX founder and CEO Elon Musk at the International Astronautical Congress on September 27, 2016 as the Interplanetary Transport System. Although Starship has already completed several test flights, the update that Elon Musk was to provide has unfortunately been somewhat delayed. This wasn't entirely unexpected, since we have also been waiting for 3 years for Tesla's new Cybertruck, in which Elon Musk has a big stake. During the test flights, the Starship was powered by 3 Raptor engines, each of which shut down in sequence before Starship reached its highest point. But now, the long-awaited update from Elon Musk himself. Starship S20 and Super Heavy Booster B4 were stacked for the first time in early August 2021, when both stages were still weeks or even months away from some degree of completion. Only months later did Starship S20 kick off a multi-month period of qualification tests, eventually becoming the first Starship prototype to successfully test a full 6 Raptor engines at once. Super Heavy B4, on the other hand, had an even more painful time for unknown reasons and only graduated to basic cryogenic proof testing in mid-December, more than 4 months later. While the booster has had a full 29 Raptor 1 engines installed for months, the booster has yet to perform or attempt a single static fire of any number of those engines and hasn't even managed a basic wet dress rehearsal with real liquid oxygen and methane propellant. Eventually, SpaceX did perform a handful of Booster 4 Raptor ignition tests, but those were almost more of a test of the launch pad than the Super Heavy itself. The slow and minimal progress SpaceX has made in testing the Super Heavy B4 may actually be because of issues with orbital launch pad's tank farm design. To this day, while the oxygen and nitrogen half of the farm are already storing thousands of tons of propellant and coolant, the fuel inside of the same farm has yet to be filled with any methane. That makes thoroughly testing a super heavy booster much harder, though there are some obvious workarounds SpaceX could have made if it had really wanted to start proof testing Booster 4 as soon as possible. In fact, it's no longer clear if Ship 20 or Booster 4 will actually get to fulfill their original goal of supporting Starship's first orbital test flight. Nonetheless, they are still two giant, nearly completed stages that together form a full Starship stack. Heading into 2022, SpaceX appears to be more focused on testing a somewhat extraneous part of the first orbital Starship launch site: chopstick arms installed on the launch tower. SpaceX's current Starship launch tower design centers around the need for 3 giant swinging arms, one to fuel and power Starship, and the other 2 to lift, stack, and maybe one day catch super heavy boosters and ships. Had SpaceX stayed true to the original Starship BFR ITS design, the booster would have been fueled through the launch mount, and Starship would have been fueled through a connection with the booster, significantly simplifying the tower. In theory, replacing that design with a complex, building-sized umbilical arm might ultimately improve Starship's nominal payload to orbit by a few percent. Additionally, using the even more complex chopsticks, a pair of giant arms, to lift and stack Super Heavy and Starship may actually be a smart design, as it could theoretically free SpaceX from the painful operational constraints imposed by large cranes. By all appearances, that's exactly what SpaceX plans to test next week. Starship S20 has already been moved adjacent to the launch tower, and Super Heavy B4 has been attached to a crane, somewhat ironically, in preparation for its own move to the tower. For the first time, SpaceX might use the tower arms to lift Super Heavy onto the orbital launch mount, stabilize the booster, and then lift and stack Starship on top of it, all without a crane, in theory. Of course, insofar as SpaceX performed the first full stack fit test with the crane, the tower's lift/catch arms only really become irreplaceable once waiting a few days for safe lift conditions becomes a bottleneck for Starship launch operations. Nonetheless, a successful stacking operation with those arms would be an impressive technical feat and demonstrate one of the things needed for all-weather Starship launch operations, even if it won't leave SpaceX any closer to orbital test flights than it was before. Well, a whole lot of information that will therefore have to provide more clarity on Thursday, February 10th. We are very curious what CEO Elon Musk is going to say about his SpaceX Starship on that day. But what do you guys think about this? Let us know in the comments below. If you want to be updated about topics like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching The World of Tesla, and see you next time.